Welcome back to another episode of Raul's World of Synths. I'm Raul. If you were with us in the last video, we kind of did a basic audio demonstration of our friend, the A105 SSM 24 decibel low pass filter. We just did a few filter sweeps, kind of went through the wide breadth of the filter, or however you want to say it. Kind of experimented a little bit with the resonance, and did not really do too much other than manual adjustment of some of the parameters here. This video is going to be sort of exclusively for modulation of this filter. We have a few modulation sources kind of off on the side that we're going to be using to modulate our filter in various ways. So without further ado, let's just jump right in and get this guy patched up. As far as the setup goes, we're going to use kind of the same setup. Over on the left over here, we have our A155 generating some control voltages, or notes, as it's also called. Right here is the output of those notes, and then these notes are going over into something called a quantizer, if you're seeing this for the first time right here. And then that's sort of telling the voltages to only play in the major key. If this is the first time you're seeing this, I also have a series on that quantizer guy over there. So I do recommend you go back and check that out if you can. Let's see. So then those notes are actually going over here to our friend, the A111 VCO, and that's what we're going to be using to generate sound. Now, I did have it patched up before with a saw wave, so let's use that this time. I might even add a second waveform just for the heck of it. I'm going over here into my VCA, off this way, into our VCA. I'm going into audio input number 1, right there, and let me take the audio out from there and then feed that into our filter. Now we may hear a little bit of sound right there, but I'm not getting full sound yet because I'm not triggering this yet. And I also have my cutoff pretty low over here on my filter. So the way I had my VCA triggering last time was I had my clock out from over here at my sequencer, had an output from my clock, so every pulse of the clock is feeding a signal right here, and then I'm taking that and going over here into the section right after the SSM filter, right there, and triggering that gate right there. Let me unpatch this just for a moment so that cable doesn't get so in your face or in your camera face. All right, so there the envelope is triggering. You can see that because the LED is lighting up. I'm going to take that output right there, patch it into our VCA, and you immediately hear a little bit something different. Don't know what yet, but something different. So the envelope is triggering our VCA over here, the A131. Yes, 131. Almost forgot the name. And then let's just take that output. We got it already going into our filter. Got the level all the way up, so we should be hearing some nice crunchy sounds. And then we're going to turn up the cutoff frequency. So there's our basic sound. Let me bring down the resonance a little bit so we just get regular cutoff for now. Okay, now let's do some modulation. So I'm going to take, for the first modulation, just a basic LFO right here, sine wave, and let's just do a filter sweep. So we'll just sweep filter, kind of like I was doing last time with manual thing. Let's just do it with a sine wave. So there we go. No hands. It's just doing it all by itself. So then I can adjust the rate over here. Okay, that's pretty cool. But again, pretty standard. Now, there was something I did kind of in one of my tests that I found turned out pretty interesting sounding, and it actually had to do with the filter tracking, which this is a 1 volt per octave capable input right there, which means you can actually trigger this as a sine wave oscillator, but I was kind of using it in a different way. So let's hear some of that. Let's see, I need to go over to my quantizer. So for those of you who can't see it, I'm going to move the, whoops, getting crazy over here. All right, so zooming out a little bit, going to my quantizer, going to actually take the notes out and just go into my multiples here. And then I'm going to take those notes. One of them is going back to my A111, so we'll hear that again. Notes all back again. And I'm going to take that multiplied signal, or that copy of it, and I'm going to patch that over into our filter. So it should be doing standard filter tracking. Here we go. So as the notes go up over here, like up in the scale, they'll go up on the cutoff. Now my notes over here at the A155, I don't know if you can see this, are really not in a very broad range. I mean, they're across 4 octaves, but you know, they're not all over the 5 octaves range that this guy can actually do, or 4 octave range, or 4 or 5. I'll have to defer to that. I can't remember exactly if it's 5 octave or it's 4 octaves. So, but regardless, my settings are not letting me go as far as I'd like to. So, one thing I can try is to maybe combine modulation signals. Let's try that. So I'm going to take an LFO, sine wave again, and just patch that into my second input here. So now the sum of those two is actually going into that, and I'm getting a more pronounced effect because now they're summing together and they're creating something a little bit different. Okay, so there we go. Now I did mention before that it has the ability to function as a sine wave oscillator, so let's hear a little bit of that. And in order to do that, well, I may actually need this again in a moment. So let me turn this all the way up, right into self-oscillation. And actually for this, let me just unpatch my my oscillator. So there you should just hear a drone. So now I can take these same notes that I was using a moment ago into my A111 and just patch them into here. Where is it? And now I have a simple little melody. Or same melody I heard before on my A111, now I hear it on my A105. Cool. And then this actually brings up the example that I was sort of testing out in my sort of external tests, which involved over here the A145 going into the second input right there. So I think this is how I had it before. Let's try it out. Not exactly the most melodic thing in the world. Maybe the polar opposite of that, but is a pretty kind of cool, crazy sound that, you know, some of you out there might like. And I can always turn down my LFO rate. Because you may not always be implementing this in a way that is melodic. You might be trying to just create some crazy sounds, or a kick drum, or percussion, or something like that. And I can also increase it right there. My modulation amount there. Of course, that's kind of obscuring the notes that I have going in there, but... So, something a little bit different. Something to consider. Okay, let me unpatch that. And let's try something a little different. So, let's get our audio signal back in there. So let me take that out. That way we can hear a little bit of resonance and cutoff and more modulation. So that's actually not a bad sound right there. I kind of like that. So right there I have it filter tracking, and then I have my standard audio out coming from my VCA over here, up into the filter. have it a little bit distorting with quite a bit of resonance over there. Now, if I wanted to vary this up a little more, I could maybe get some more modulation involved. Maybe take the output of our envelope here, maybe run it into resonance. I haven't tried this yet, so bear with me. And bring down the modulation signal there. So same envelope that's being sent to our friend the VCA is also being sent now to the resonance parameter here, and then I can kind of adjust it at will. If I want the maximum amount, if I kind of like the way that sounds, I can leave it there, or if I can bring it down to a minimum and have it a little more subtle. Or if I wanted to go completely nuts, I could add a little more modulation, take the sine wave out over here, as I was doing before, and the A145, and then patch it into the frequency cutoff. This might get really crazy right here. But it's got a nice wide range of types of sounds that you can actually get out of this. And then of course you can sort of fine-tune your modulation by bringing down the amount of LFO coming in or the amount of resonance modulation coming in until you get something you like. You can kind of hone in on the exact sound that you want, because there's a lot of different little nuances here in this little sound here. So it's a little more tinny than what we had before. I could bring the resonance up a little more. I'm not sure, but I'm a big fan of that one, but maybe right about there. So we got several different things going on there. Of course, I could always adjust my waveform over here. Do a triangle wave instead. Or, you know, speed it up. And so there you have it. Modulation with the A105 SSM 24 decibel low pass filter. Now this is a little bit of an extreme example, not exactly the most controlled thing in the world. But I've done quite a bit of, let's see, the controlled type of demos. So I thought it might be good to try something a little bit different this time around and just kind of have a little bit of fun with it. So, at any rate, this is going to bring the series to a close. Hopefully you've enjoyed this series, kind of listening to the different types of sounds that you can get from this. Everything from semi-experimentals to just straightforward filtering. As we were saying before in the very first video, this filter specifically is made by Doepfer, but the chip in it is actually from other synthesizers. So if you put that within the context of the modular environment, that means that you can use kind of the sound or the sort of flavor that was available in synths like the Poly 6, Monopoly, you know, Fairlight, and so on, and all the different synths that chip that was used, the SSM 2044, and kind of incorporate it into your own little mixture or recipe for sound. I'm not sure what the next series in Raul's World of Synths is going to be, but hopefully you'll stay tuned for that. I do invite you to not only continue watching Raul's World of Synths videos, but again, if you had questions about any of the stuff that was going on over here at the A155, or let me turn my camera again, over here at the A156, I do invite you to watch some of those previous videos series that I've done on the A155 and the A156, as well as some of the VCO videos of the envelopes, or, you know, on and on and on. There's lots of videos I have on my YouTube channel, so, and they're free, so just keep watching, as many as you like. Make sure to get some sun occasionally, though. So, with that being said, Thank you very much for watching, and keep on patching out there.